How did you first get involved working with Frontiers?
Well, actually, I was the original founding attorney, and I knew the original founders of the organization, who were Greg Carmack, Jerry Hyde, and Bob Craig, two of whom unfortunately have died of AIDS. I've known Mark Hundle over 20 years when he had the premier after-hours bar, Probe, and I've known David Stern for over a decade, so I've been involved since the start.
And how did you first get involved working with the LGBT community?
I began my work in the early 1970s during the Anita Bryant campaign and the Briggs campaign to stop gay men from being teachers in the state. Since that time, I have considered myself an activist, and I've continued to work in any capacity that I can in order to equalize gay rights, women's rights, and the rights of all other people. And I think that that's something that is critically important and a moral obligation of every human being.
Anita Bryant sure rattled the wrong cage, didn't she? And with Harvey Milk and people like you.
It all happened about the same time to catalyze me into the movement, Bryant and of course Briggs. And then fortuitously, I happened to be in San Francisco the day Harvey Milk was assassinated. And I participated in that march and held a candle in his vigil. And it still brings tears to my eyes today.
What do you feel are the most important characteristics a leader can have?
I believe that you have to have courage. I think that you have to lack a certain degree of fear of reprisal and of being rejected, and that you have to be prepared for that more times than not, because that's what's normally going to happen if you take firm positions. It's easier to be neutral. I have been blessed from being a boy from the Bronx who's made it to Bel Air, who's been somewhat successful, not only in my professional career, but in my personal love life and also amongst my friends.
You've always been a supporter of local charities and HIV/AIDS communities.
I was there in the early 80s, and I knew Joel Weissman, and I knew people who died in the early 80s, and they were beautiful young men. For some reason, I was spared, but others were not. I buried hundreds of my friends. I think that because the face of AIDS have changed, the commitment to AIDS has changed. People don't see it as a threat. The youth must understand this is still a deadly disease. We have friends in the community who have to continue fighting. AIDS funding must continue. The fight goes on. This is not the end. It's just changed.
How do you feel about where we are in the fight for equal rights now?
I'm pleased at what President Obama has done. I think that more must be done. I think that goes without saying. My greatest fear is that we will have more backlashes, as we have had in so many states, of constitutional amendments against gay marriage. There's a new movement against women's rights, reproductive rights. It horrifies me. And anyone who decides to rest on their laurels during this time period should be afraid of himself or herself and should be kicked in the butt and told them to get off their ass and start working. I think that being an attorney gives you a certain amount of power. So I get to protect those who are weaker and don't have as much strength or power as I do, and allows me to help people. And that's my greatest accomplishment, that I'm able to give my support to those causes that others cannot. My hopes are so wide and overpowering. I'm not running for Miss America, so I'm not looking for world peace. I'm looking for a day when there really is an end to AIDS and this epidemic. I'm looking for a day when women have equal rights. I'm looking for a day when all people can be respected and constitutionally gay marriage can be recognized. I'm looking for a day where there is no fear of being yourself. You know, it's been a long and an exciting lifetime. So I've been blessed with being, as I said, a poor boy raised in the tenements to living in two rather spectacular places, and having represented some incredible people in the universe, from Cary Grant to Zsa Zsa Gabor to Heather Tom. You know, I just performed Heather Tom's wedding in September of last year, and that's pretty amazing. I don't know if you know who she is. She's a big soap star, and she's won 4 Emmys, and she's very gay supportive, and she was the head of Planned Parenthood and a delegate to the Democratic Convention. Cary Grant was incredible. Just people like George Sidney, the 3-time Academy Award winner, who did Annie Get Your Gun and the Harvey Girls and Bye Bye Birdie, and he used to walk in and was really someone who loved women and used to walk in and call me darling. And that was when people in Hollywood weren't afraid of having people think they were gay at certain levels, as long as it was known that they were just playing around. George used to tell me I had the best legs of any attorney other than Wyman Boutzer, who was one of his first entertainment lawyers. So, you know, great stories. Mae West once told me that she said, you know, Ron, you're going to be a famous lawyer one day. Don't say anything to the press you don't want to die with. And so I've been blessed with meeting greatness in my life and getting to do a little bit of good.
That's when I see the hope and the magic, is when we are straight allies and different groups come together and support each other.
Well, the first organization that I helped form was with Zelda Rubinstein from the Poltergeist movie, and she was obviously straight. And she, along with many other stars, joined with us, urging abstinence at that point because we didn't know how AIDS was transmitted. And this was back in the early 1980s. And so we have had the support of so many straight people who are true friends of our community. I'm a little bit disappointed that certain church members have taken positions so antithetical to ours in the minority community when the gay community has been so supportive of their rights. That is one of my greatest disappointments. But we do have people like Al Sharpton and Reverend Jackson and Cesar Chavez's heirs, and they are helping us, and that gives me great hope as well.
And as we're heading into this election, we're starting to see who's for us, who's against us, and pretty clear, sometimes not very attractive images. Sometimes
it's truly disgusting. I come from an era where you used to be arrested, as I said, for merely walking into a gay bar. I remember an incident when I was younger, in my 20s, when I was walking across the street with a cardiac surgeon, a reconstructive burn surgeon, and myself, and people in a truck threw beer bottles at us and called us faggots. That's the era I come from. That has changed somewhat, and it has changed a lot here, but it still happens other places. And that's what people forget. I'm safe where I am. I don't have to contribute money. I don't have to contribute my time. My life is not going to change. I do what I do to change the lives of others who are less fortunate. And that's why, you know, I do what I do, because I think you have to pay back. I want to see Proposition 8 go to the Supreme Court, and I want to see the Supreme Court have the courage to say what they said in interracial marriage, that marriage is a fundamental right, and that two people of the same sex have the right to marry, and that the government has no business interfering with that. That would be very important to me, that the Constitution of the United States lives up to its promise. So the answer to the question directly is yes, I think that we will see gay marriage in our lifetimes.